Welcome to She Blaze, where we're bringing you cannabis culture from a woman's point of view. And as always, here to elevate the cannabis industry. I'm one of your hosts, Ice Dawson, Cannabis Socialite.
And I am Dasheeda Dawson. We're already giggling. It's a good episode.
Yes, we are telling jokes before it helps.
Yes.
And on today's episode of She Blaze, the FBI is investigating Nevada's Department of Taxation. We're learning how Toronto is combating against illegal cannabis stores. And we're discussing highlights from New York Governor Cuomo's newly proposed cannabis bill.
Ooh, well, we got a juicy one today, you guys. Oh
Very
my goodness,
juicy.
I'm very excited.
Very excited. Big fat steak.
Yes, okay. So it's like, all right, of course, we got to kick things off with the high of the week. And I am riding high because it's birthday week. I mean, Aquarius season, birthday week. So your girl just turned 41. I'm very excited about that. And that's mostly because I don't look 41.
That's a good feeling.
It is. I guess I always imagined when I got to a certain age that I would start to really feel it and look it. And thanks to cannabis, to be honest, I definitely don't feel it.
I know that.
But for just a lot of melanin and just God's graces and some genes, I'm fortunate that I don't really look it. But I was really wanted to give quick shout outs because I've been traveling a lot. You know, we got the book tour going on, but coming back has been really awesome because you're getting a lot of cards and from friends. And so just wanted to shout out to Heath Chappelle. He is a fantastic journalist out of Philadelphia, and he's the founder of the Can Atlantic Conference, which is coming up on April 4th through the 5th. And we're going to be having our book tour stop there, so you can find me there. But basically, he sent me this beautiful card because we worked together at the DACO conference. And he sent me a thank you note. And like, real talk, in cannabis, this never happens. Now, in regular mainstream, and when you work with people and then it's been an impression, this happens. So I thank you to Heed, and we'll put the link in the comments for folks to find out about that Philadelphia conference. I mean, real talk, the tickets are only like $30. So it was intended primarily for servicing communities of color, being able to truly educate them. And he was actually taking it from the standpoint of educating journalists of color as one of the executive board members for the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists.
Well, that is amazing. Thank you so much. That's so cute.
Yes. I got other ones too, so I'm gonna be like bang bang, dropping some highs throughout the week. It's my birthday week. I get to be high the whole time.
Listen, you can take all of my high of the week on your birthday week, boo.
Oh, really?
Yes,
okay. So you don't have no high?
Oh, well.
I always want to know, we want to know what you're smoking on.
True. Well, I'm smoking on some pink gelato grapefruit, I think is what it's called. It's a really long name. I know.
Sometimes I'm really like the names. Oh my goodness.
The names are complicated, and it's like, I get it. Gelato has a lot of phenotypes and things of that nature, but sometimes you guys are just like popping these names out your butthole, and I just don't know what to even call it.
Well, hopefully it is something in between, because like Connecticut legit in their medical program decided that they were going to rename all of our typical street strain names, things. And I won't even say street, because like some of these strains have been around for a long time. And they decided to come up with like more medical pharmaceutical names, and it's a mess. It was a mess really when the market first opened, but now consumers have started to make like matchup menus. So, like Sativerin is like super lemon haze, or I mean, don't quote me on it, but that's how you determine which product you want to get.
That sounds really complicated, but yes, it is a cannabis strain. It's a hybrid, so it's not like one of my faves.
Okay.
So I'm not smoking anything extraordinary this week, you guys, but pray that something on the market drops.
Let's pray. I mean, usually you're stacked on stacked on stacked with those concentrates and such, but it's all good. At the end of the day, we got a lot of highs to share. I'm going to be sharing some of the big announcements in February at the end of the show, so you definitely want to stay tuned. But I think I'm ready to get into these hot topics.
Yes, I am too. And so hot topic number one is Nevada's Department of Taxation being investigated by the FBI. That is not a joke.
Child. First of all, I was saying earlier, why is it that it's like since we moved here, every 2 months, there's something that transpires or comes to the surface related to the Nevada market. So what's going on now? What's the
Well,
situation?
I'm all up in their news because I live here, so I got to know what's going on.
True, especially if it's
more.
moldy cannabis on shelf.
Hello,
Okay.
hello. And just in general, I do watch the news and read about it because it's important to be informed.
Agreed.
Okay, so an auditor from the Department of Taxation Marijuana Enforcement Division met with FBI agents way back in March of 2019.
Okay.
So we're just now hearing this come to light. And, there's a lot of issues that this auditor has pointed out from the marijuana division. They're saying that there's been crazy amounts of feels like what could be illegal practices as far as, deleting disciplinary records of certain dispensary sales to marijuana, bending the rules to favor certain establishments. They have different type of documents unprotected with personal information of people, unprotected, unsecured, and they also have large amounts of seized marijuana in the state's office. So like after they take it from you, they just go put it in the black office on the left.
That's everybody else's stash. I'm sorry.
No tea, no shade.
Wow. So just to break it down, this is something that they found through one person's testimony. And this is a person who in some ways is basically been implicated, right? Directly implicated in some of the things that's happening. And essentially he's a whistleblower because he is kind of not like, I'm not going to take the fall for this.
Well, when you read some of the article, I got all the important parts as far as cannabis, but there are some extreme things that he is saying in this article to the FBI. So
you definitely want to make sure you leave that in the links for folks, the links in the comments for folks, because they're going to want to dig deeper. It's a little bit like, again, Nevada is one of the states that, legalized in 2016, but really has struggled in some way. There's some things that do well, but then, there are other things that have really, we've been talking about it. First, it was almost like a recall a bit on flower because of the way
licenses being snatched from different labs.
Yeah, for problems with the test results. The head of this whole program basically being fired.
Yeah.
And
there's a license freeze. So there's a bunch of things happening in Vegas right now, you guys, if you don't know.
Yeah, and I think while we enjoy that the market is still developing and you can take advantage of that as an entrepreneur, certainly, I think that it is definitely stalled behind what has been very, maybe old school practices. At the end of the day, why people believe that they're going to buy the cannabis market is only because in the past, this obviously had to have happened before, whether it was alcohol, whether it's casinos. And, I'm like, what country are we living in right now? And I realized that this is just sort of a little bit of airing our dirty laundry because we're kind of built on this, things that are now coming to light because of the internet, because of the fact that we have access to tell these stories.
Yeah.
But it's no way that people are not operating like this and realizing that there's a history of it. At first I was very optimistic, but I think again, this is a situation where people aren't looking at what's in the best interest of the consumer. It's really about, this is supposed to be a cash cow kind of an industry,
Well, this all is coming to light because, like you had said, he and the rest of the department is being sued by a lot of people that were unable to get different licenses. So they're going to court this year, so we are going to keep you guys up to date. But it definitely makes you wonder, like, he was like, you know what, let me tell my story before we even head to court so y'all don't even got it confused.
Well, that's smart. And especially when we think about the crash of 2008, there was a lot of people in the mid-level management that became whistleblowers because things were falling on them, when in fact it was the high level people who were making these poor decisions. And I don't think anybody who's mid-level or lower should be taking the fall for these practices that are really coming from the top down.
I agree. I mean, I'm just trying to do my job.
Exactly. That's probably what he's saying. He's like, dang. But, also, I think the real issue is that it's stalling the market. We're not seeing the best of the best here. I got off the plane not too long ago coming from the book tour, and some guys were getting outside with me. And of course, as soon as I got near outside, I was like, all right, let me go ahead and take a hit from my pipe. And they were, wanting to know, because they were from Colorado, where's the best cannabis, and they wanted good prices. And I was like, you're going to be a little disappointed. This is really, really expensive here. The flower is so dry. So I was like, whatever you do, please get some Boveda packs, please.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know. I think the market can be improved on. And if it's going to be such a big tourist attraction, NFL, Super Bowl, Nevada got to get it together.
They do. And there's room to grow. So, that's why we're learning all these lessons now, so y'all could really get it together, because Nevada could be popping.
It could be.
But,
wow.
Moving
the South's going to be popping, right?
I try to have some faith in the South, but I'm lived in the land. I don't have that much faith in the South.
Well,
but
they are making strides.
Yes. Well, holler at me when they get some flour to even be dry.
Okay, fair enough. It is a struggle.
Moving on to higher topics, let's talk about our second hot topic of the week. The Southern University HBCU has partnered with a major cannabis company to launch a hemp-derived CBD product line.
Yeah, and it's the first. This is the first. I want to shout out Dr. Shonda Messias. She basically has been a pioneer in the industry as long as I have been. She is a Howard graduate, so she's definitely pro HBCU, and she's a Rutgers MBA too, y'all. So shout out to RU, and a PhD in cellular biology. So we're always talking about her list of accolades is long and things that she's done in the industry, but this is something that is really, just to me, like one of those historical moments, because we've had such a struggle to get communities of color to really step up and understand what is happening with cannabis. And if you read my book, or if you're paying attention, then you know that hemp is cannabis too. Yes. And Louisiana actually has a pretty robust hemp research program, and Southern University was one of the first HBCUs to get a license. And now with her partnership with Delera Holistic Healthcare, where she's the CEO, they're going to have a CBD line, and that is like unprecedented. Yes, amazing, unprecedented. It's like, yay, here we go.
And we were talking about first in the industry a lot, so this is exciting to see a true first, and really just start to open up the doors for everyone. I always hope,
I hope so. I mean, it's Black History Month, and we're celebrating, but the truth is, this is something that I think is going to be a celebratory thing for generations to come, because they're really going to really get a great start in the market. They're already going to be available in dispensaries, and because of CBD, it actually can be distributed throughout the United States.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. And, the things we talk about the most on products, we care if it's scientifically formulated, which this is, lab tested, number one thing on any consumer's mind.
Absolutely.
And pesticide free. So, it's exciting to see them following the things that we see that we want consumers to have too.
Yeah, Dr. Shonda essentially is basically under the mission that she doesn't believe that communities who are challenged, poor individuals, should have to pay so much for a health care option. And, our our government's behind, but that doesn't mean that as business people, we can't help move it forward. So I'm excited. It seems like they're going to be doing it in multiple launches, and they've got a few things out right now.
Yes, so they have CBD isolate, which is amazing, and we've talked about it in the past. And then they have full spectrum CBD, which you love talking about your entourage.
Yes, I love full spectrum.
Yes, and it is all retail price for $40. So like you said, very affordable versus like we know for a fact there is a lot of, I mean, we just talked about it last week, this CBD lube that's $50, you know?
Yeah, and it was so small too. Oh my goodness. So these are also major milligrams. 500 milligrams is the lowest level that they're offering. And, you know, I've basically seen things with 200, 250 in that $40 range. Once you get to 500, you start seeing $65. It's definitely very affordable. So it feels like that everyday low pricing, great strategy. Illyra is also a cannabis company that's doing well out of Pennsylvania. And so it's a multi-state cannabis company. And I think it'll only be a great lead-in for more products and potentially products on the marijuana side.
That's exciting.
It is. Congratulations.
Yes, congrats.
She is blazing trails.
Yes, she is literally blazing trails.
Yes.
And so I definitely think that's a great high note. And so I think we should move to the third topic.
Okay.
And it is about another one of the first, in a way, Cookies dispensary in San Francisco recently opened, and it is a dispensary to claim to be the first owned by a Black man, which technically it is the first in San Francisco to be owned by a Black man. So it is also partnered with Berner, who is a very well-known cannabis influencer. I read a think piece on this from Vice about, you know, the other people that are also owning the dispensary. And essentially, Berner owns it, he owns it, but so do other white men. And so they feel like, is that fair to get a equity license because of it?
Well, you know, I think that that's valid, and it's been the discussion ever since we've started talking about the need for equity in the industry. One of the main reasons why equity is needed is because, well, most industries are set up with these very stringent rules that really start with capitalization requirements, which is like how much money you have in the bank. And yes, certain parts of being a vertically integrated company or a dispensary can be very expensive, having the real estate, et cetera, et cetera. So far in places where equity programs have been around the longest, and that hasn't even really been that long, like right across in Oakland, there's still been a challenge. There are some people who are benefiting, and I'm definitely proud of the movement, but there's also quite a few people who are just sitting on licenses and unable to really make equity work for them. I am always excited about the work that's being done around equity, and Make Green Grow is basically an organization that focuses on cannabis equity applicants and educating them. LaWanda Knox, who is actually part of the overall Knox family, they all got somebody who's doing something for something, and she's in Oakland, and she has an MBA, and she basically has been supporting these applicants and equity licenses get through. But there is a point where you can't start actually being in business until you have funding.
Right.
That makes me bring up another great Bay Area brand in the James Henry brand, right? This is a Black-owned brand. Those brothers are awesome, and yet there was a point where they had to come off the shelves because there was a stall in their production based on the need for more funding, and they were able to secure it over time. But that type of thing doesn't happen when you are backed by highly finance individuals, and most of the time those folks are, you know, it's United States. The country is run by white men who finance pretty much everything at this point. This is a struggle for white women as well, so it's not just a problem about you know, race discrepancy. It's also gender. And that's where I feel like you're seeing it bleed into the industry. Now, do I fundamentally care whether or not an equity applicant has a diverse leadership board and ownership board? No, it should be diverse at the end of the day. And it also, at the same time, the same way there are all white male, there should probably be some all black something, all Hispanic something. There are enough of us that the ratio should make sense. But, to come to the table with a diverse board is a kind of a requirement for all of the industry. It should be. So I wouldn't be as alarmed by that. But I think if it's all about taking the money and running and creating a poor partnership agreement that leaves the person of color, the black person, in most cases, the disadvantaged individual as not really with the ownership, then I have to question that. Al Harrington covers this a lot. He's been talking about it because he's been opening different licenses in multiple states. And I think he has the right idea in that, he's another brother trying to help other brothers. And I think Bernard does have that same perspective as a prominent Hispanic man in the industry. He believes what they're doing is real. But he also is real talk and saying, but you need the finance guys. And those guys are white boys.
Well, I think you're right about having the two different ratios. I think we could see it on both ends. And the goal would ultimately be having it as diverse as possible. Not just white boys, but like you said, there are women that are not getting the type of funding as easy as we are too. So I think you make some really strong points here. They did not say how many points any of them had. So we don't know, and it recently opened up and literally the line was around the corner. So
for this dispensary?
For a cookies dispensary. I mean, the loyalty there is just pure love.
Burnham makes them, they have fire flower, and he is an awesome, like you said, brand marketer. So yeah.
So I'm excited to see. It's another first. So shout out to that. Another checkbox 2020. It's okay. I'll accept it.
I'll take it too. But what we need to do is just be real. Look under the hood.
Right.
Make sure everything is good. And at the end of the day, if this man who's the front man, the black front man, if he feels like a token, then maybe there is that happening. If he feels like he's gotten an opportunity that he never would have gotten before, and he's trying to figure out how to expand that for his own community and create great product for his community, then more power to him.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this is exciting, and I would love to get into some international cannabis news.
Okay, you got the international tea on us.
Yes,
okay.
I want to just take us across some lines real quick.
Okay.
And we are going to head to Canada, one of the first countries above us,
to legalize
cannabis.
Yes, all the way.
And Toronto had quite a few issues with illegal cannabis stores. And so to fix that, they decided they were no longer going to put a couple locks and things on the doors. They're going to put concrete blocks on the doors. Toronto paid for concrete blocks on the shop owners.
I saw the pictures.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, we have come to that. Wow.
I mean, listen, they were kind of being disrespectful. There were reports by the officers, saying that when they put locks on the doors, they just come back and open up shop again. Like everything's all good in the hood.
That's real gangster.
We don't do that really in America. We probably got 3. We might switch to a different
location.
Shop.
Yeah, it's like a new secret location.
Right. We're not bold enough to be like, all right, this is it. No. So that, I feel like, that's a passive aggressive way to be like, please don't do that anymore. But there have been some owners even that was bold enough to move the blocks. Yeah.
Wow. Well, gosh, I mean, on the one hand, I'm like, this is a little bit insane. Canada is legal. Why are there still so many illegal dispensaries? But what people don't realize is that Toronto actually only has 5 legal dispensaries. Now, Toronto is not no itty bitty city. It's become that party city. Shout out to Drake because of it. You got the championships with Toronto Raptors.
Right.
This is a potential tourism hub. And when you come to town, you only got 5 choices. No, I think that that's part of the reason why they're still coming around, and it's probably the reason why they're not being heavily or as heavily policed. Apparently, this place had like 4 or 5 different locations, and they were getting notifications from the police to shut down multiple times. And then I start to wonder, like, are there like criminal ramifications for just completely ignoring? But I think it's all fine based. To me, it clearly is the case that these owners are not Black. I'll be real, because I feel like they would already been in jail. I'm just being 100. Like, the police put boulders up and you moving them to illegally operate your business. I don't know. I feel like somebody would be leaving in handcuffs. I'm just
or zip ties.
I'm just saying. I mean, we're seizing pounds and pounds of hemp, right? And calling it a real bust.
Right.
So
well,
we're still a little behind.
There's a few different reports of, people out in Ohio, where an NFL player basically got caught with cannabis in his car, and he was like, "Nah, brother, this hemp," and they could not tell the difference because it's reported that they can't tell the level of THC in the flower. So
no, without an actual test for that, you wouldn't.
Yes,
and hemp has terpenes, it has bud, it looks like flower, especially to the naked eye. And if you definitely are not the person who really knows cannabis, you're not paying enough attention at all. And most police are like, "Oh, it smells like weed, then it's weed."
Right.
And therefore, in that case, he didn't get arrested.
No, they let the brother go.
Well, we've heard so many different stories. This thing with Toronto feels like a mess and a little bit of an epidemic, because once again, you have a municipality, which is basically the whole country, to be honest. But in this case, they've legalized and they don't have nearly enough cannabis stores to service their population. Both the people who live there as well as individuals who are the tourists. They could be doing a lot more business too. Why don't they just help them become licensed? Why is it limited like that?
I honestly, you know what? We gotta bring that up to the forefront of a She Blaze episode. Start getting that penciled in, because I have no earthly idea. I think that it should be first of all, they should do more than 5 licenses. I mean, y'all in medical and medicinal, and y'all were already plotting on being adult use. If you weren't preparing to let the levees flood, then what were you doing? Like, do they have home grow, gifting? Like, what's going on here?
I don't know, but I do know they also have CBD is illegal there.
Oh yeah, CBD is illegal.
So it's just a confusing mess as far as I'm concerned, in terms of just the government not really knowing what they're doing. I want to give Canada props for at least realizing earlier than America that it needed the whole country to be federally legal, and that they needed a robust program of regulation. But it seems like it's really slow rolling, and it's also not growing as fast as we predicted it from the outset.
Well, people forecast real high, so
everything is inflated. Let's talk about it for a quick second. When we come back for that longer deep dive, we need to not only talk about the illegal dispensaries, but the inflated valuations of companies that are on the Canadian exchange. A lot of hemp companies that are actually selling in the US, because again, like I said, CBD is illegal in Canada.
Right.
A lot of people have done that reverse takeover into a shell, and some folks are even selling cannabis coins on the Canadian exchange. There's a lot going on. I am not at all an investor expert, and so I'm excited to be having our friend Masora Courtney on. She's the Ivy investor, and she's going to talk to us a little bit more about how that's all working, because I have a lot of questions, and that to me is part of why Canada is a bunch of confusion for me from a business perspective. In 2020, I hope to dive a little bit deeper there and get into a few opportunities, because from branding opportunities to the regulatory frameworks, it's still not working yet.
Well, all this stuff is broken and we need to figure out how to fix it.
Yes.
And so I think this helps us lead to something rushing to get adult use legalized so quickly.
Yes.
That it wasn't able to iron out the details and the facts behind it. So this moves us to our main topic. We're looking back at New York. Yeah, you know we got eyeballs on
like
New York.
Dejavu, yo.
It is. We've been talking about New York. So our main topic is about the New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's new cannabis bill. And it feels new kind of, but not really. So that's why you feel it.
Yeah, I'm putting new in quotations, air quotes. It's not that different, but I do want you to kind of call out some of the differences. There are minimal ones, and we're going to have some deep discussion about what are some of the holes potentially or concerns with the New York market, because it's not different. I got a lot of the same concerns if you ask me.
Well, one of the things in the bill says that he only would allow 1 permit of cannabis. 1 ounce of cannabis permitted per person.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just like stumbling over my words there. And then the dispensary would only be allowed to sell 1 ounce per person as well.
Well, that's already a little bit like why. It's like an arbitrary. I mean, first of all, that means Jim Jones can only get something from a dispensary once per day, right? Because he has a whole multiple ounces per day kind of situation. I just think that you don't know what people are using it for. There's a reason people shop at Costco. Not everybody wants to go to the dispensary every day. And that's why I brought up Jim Jones, because it's like, if he's an ounce a day, does that mean that man has to go to the dispensary every day to replenish? That's terrible. Why not have an ability to buy bulk and then use it as you need, the same way we do for our cereal or flour or sugar? The only thing for the most part that I would be concerned about when I'm buying in bulk is being able to preserve it. And as long as you know how to take care of your cannabis, you can preserve it. It's still a plant and therefore it has a shelf life, but I think sometimes it's better taken care of in my possession than it is in the possession of the dispensary.
Well, especially when you're getting it dry. Yeah. You crunch, you like, dang, did I just make seasoning?
When y'all brought back the last batch from Nevada, like the Nevada dispensaries, whatever we got a couple quarters of different things. I came down and got some out of it and it was so dry. I went to find a big bag of both of the packs and I was just like, y'all gotta make this happen. Bring these back to life. The beauty about the plant though there is that you use a humidity pack and it's able to stabilize at least for a little bit. And I think it has a longer life. But because it's sitting on the shelf in these little packs that don't do anything, it really isn't the best for the dispensary storage, but we digress. So you can't have more than an ounce on you with the Governor Cuomo. And that came from a number that we don't know where,
somebody said it at that summit thing.
Yes, who advised him about that particular number.
Well, he also said that if you're caught smoking cannabis in public, you will face a fine of $125. So
$125.
Yep.
I still think that we're putting a lot of sinning, like tax and fines on cannabis, but I don't want anybody smoking cigarettes around me. And I know that there are some states like California where there's fines associated with that. New York is not one of them. You could walk down the Village Street and it smells like a hot cigarette butt.
Well, don't speak too quick because they quick to change them cigarette laws.
That's true.
Okay.
But then again, I much prefer vape. It dissipates so quickly. And so I just kind of felt like this is one of those things where it doesn't always feel like it's an equal billing for marijuana.
First of all, New York is like gross. It stinks. So, I think it doesn't matter what you're smoking or what's not smoking. I mean, it's a small city in terms of really square footage and even mileage. So
that's the city, but there are places that,
New York State, yes, I guess that is big, but I don't know. I still think New York got a funny smell. They've been doing too many drilling over there. I don't know.
That's true. There's a lot of manufacturing.
It is.
Buffalo smells like bread. Yeah.
But they got some good food.
They do. But we digress.
Yes. And so you also, if you have more than 2 ounces on you under this bill, you will face a misdemeanor charge. So, you know, if you are holding 2 ounces, maybe you holding it for me because my purse is small. If we're caught by the police, it's a misdemeanor. So
I think it's interesting about these weights because people really have glorified the OZ, the ounce. And I think before I got into the industry and really understood what the difference between a gram, an eighth, a quarter, a zip, whatever, like I didn't understand it. And when you actually visibly see it and recognize like maybe how you consume your cannabis, if you're a person who uses an ardent, which is a decarboxylator, and you put that in there and you're trying to take your allotment and you're putting it in some of your hair products, me, you're putting it in some of your beauty products, me, you may be also putting it in some of your food, that a little like a quarter goes really fast in my opinion, especially once it's ground up. I don't know. I think that I would probably err more on the side of people need to be able to first let them be adults and let us regulate it like alcohol. If I wanted to buy an entire package store, alcohol store, nobody would ask me. I could go out freaking with a roll cart backing out like with a beeper sound with a whole bunch of alcohol. As long as I pay for it, there isn't really any reason for me not to be able to take it home with me. And no one's going to ask me, why do I have so much either?
Right. Exactly. So I definitely think it's an interesting new proposal, but it also talks about his revenue and what he plans to say all of the marijuana taxes are going into, or what he's willing to not say what it goes into.
Okay.
So it will be spent. He doesn't want to really be specific, but it says, you know, his administration, substance abuse treatment, public housing, education, research, and cannabis uses, but he doesn't want to say how many the amounts are. He doesn't want to be specific to that, you know.
That is just so, I don't know, unsatisfactory. I think my issue more than anything else is that we know specifically what neighborhoods were and communities were most affected by marijuana being illegal. New York is the state that has arrested more people than anybody else in the country due to marijuana possession alone. A good majority and overwhelmingly disproportionate percentage have been Black and Hispanic, largely men, and we know what neighborhoods they came from. They came from the East New Yorks of the world. And yes, a lot of these neighborhoods are actually still devastated. The ones that aren't are fully like gentrified and renamed. Like East Williamsburg is now, used to be basically Bushwick. I am disappointed because I think we've made the case so many times. The MRTA, which is the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act that was proposed nearly 6 years ago by the Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes, basically has been improved upon every single year in significant ways. The more that she learns, and it was sponsored by Senator Liz Kruger, the more that she learns, it gets better. And it is at a point where it is pretty comprehensive and essentially calling for direct reinvestment. And I don't think that I would support it if it wasn't. I think New York has to get it right. And if New York doesn't get it right and Pennsylvania does, then I'm a total person that would be supportive, like, of someone traveling and driving to Pennsylvania just to get their marijuana, because New York has not really fulfilled on their end. I'm not a fan of pretending like we don't know the facts and being uncertain. You could be uncertain about all that other stuff. Drug abuse, yeah, be uncertain about that. But you can't be uncertain about the fact that this revenue should be directly impacting these communities, because keeping it illegal for all these years directly impacted these communities.
Right. And I guess he wants to keep it flexible because, you know, he wants to see how the industry will grow. Well, if you don't get your medical marijuana market right, I don't know how quickly your adult use market's even gonna go right.
That's another point. I thought I would hear more about that in this proposal. It seems to me he still wants to have an Office of Cannabis Management. It's still going to be overseeing all three arms of what we consider cannabis, which is the hemp cannabis, medical marijuana, medical cannabis, and adult use. But I do feel like they're setting themselves up to be Illinois, where you have a medical program that is subpar. First of all, New York has improved a little bit in that there are over 100,000 patients now. Woo woo!
Congratulations!
Congratulations, finally. But you know, this is a state that has millions of people that are using, in my opinion. But the reality is that it isn't capitalizing on the full assortment. There's no flower. So therefore, none of the operators are really cultivating now. And that to me is the issue, is like, maybe then stay away from trying to do adult use in the budget, recognizing that you're not quite all the way there yet. You need to iron out more details about reinvestment and focus on the medical program and really expanding it. Expanding the product assortment, because right now, if I graded it, I would probably be giving it a C- or so.
You're so gracious, but I just got a question. If there has been a bill that literally is one of the most comprehensive bills about cannabis to date, why isn't he just pulling cues from that?
Well, that's a good question, and I think there are multiple answers. There's the on-camera and off-camera answers, because you know sometimes the real talk is too real. But I think
talk about it.
I think that the number one reason, the number one thing that his administration would say is that they took 90 or 85% of the MRTA. And, you know, to me, if you're doing exacting of the words and, you know, the, about, a, all these like very commonly used words, is still going to take up maybe 60 to 65%. So, you know, that is almost like a trick way to say that they copied all of the, you know, formalities of things. But where it really counts is that 10%. You know how they talk about the 80-20 rule?
Yeah.
That's what this is here. And I feel like he may have taken 80% of it, but he's missing the 20% that means so much. And I think the reinvestment part is one of it. The other thing is, so they wouldn't say that they actually haven't taken it. We know it otherwise. But I would say the main reason that maybe the governor is focused on him doing it himself during the budget is because, you know, this has become a national topic now. All of the presidential candidates are talking about it in some way, shape, or form, and even canceling themselves, real talk, Joe Biden, by making crazy statements. But yeah, if the governor has political aspirations beyond New York State, which a lot of people believe he does, then yeah, he would want to get this right. And so that's in some ways why I'm trying to almost like plead with that administration to have the right people in the room who are really trying to make sure that New York's market is going to flourish. The way right now this is reading, and some of the other things that we're hearing being, you know, lobbied about, it isn't about the best interest of the consumer or the patient. And every market that starts with just the best interest of the businesses and the money always loses, always loses. We just talked about Minnesota. They thought they were setting it up well, and it's like, no, bruh, like it's like falling bridges over there. Yes.
Falling down. I mean, there's a lot of things that, you know, New York could get right. I feel like, you know, you got to go slow. Focus on your medical marijuana market. I promise if you focus on that, you will see millions of patients, you know, because people will pay a card to get their medicine, especially if, you know, cannabis helps them feel good.
Yes. Well, one thing I will say that we didn't talk about, which he was a little bit on the fence, is that there is a home grow component for medical patients. So basically, that is an incentive for people to go get the card. I hope HIPAA laws are also an incentive, especially if you're a person of color. They are changing rules around job testing. New York City just passed regulations related to that last year. I think the state is poised to do the right thing, but again, this 80-20 rule. that 20% means a lot to the communities that have been really devastated. And Buffalo has a number of those neighborhoods. Buffalo is a city that could certainly benefit from it, and looking to figure out how to utilize cannabis to revitalize the city's economy in some ways. And it's already been, or further the revitalization. Shout out to Mayor Byron Brown, who has been doing a great job in terms of just the growth aspect of just businesses, small businesses in Buffalo. But I don't know. I still feel that there can be a lot more discussion and collaboration on the part of the governor's office with the Start Smart Coalition, which is really run by DPA. Shout out to Cassandra Federic and Melissa Moore. They basically released a statement that was like, and I love Cassandra for this because she just keeps it real. If you're not following Cassandra Federic, you should on Twitter. She will have you in stitches and keep the truth coming. But she basically was like, this is a nice try. And we are happy to see some things added. There were more small business components added. There's an equity program in more definition added, but it's still a little like, who's gonna really be in charge of overseeing this? Who's gonna make sure that it's enforced? And we've seen that happen in other states. But she was very clear, like, this doesn't work unless we are also ensuring that these communities have the proper reinvestment. And for me, same as her, I feel like that is beyond, do you get a job in the industry? Because it might not even be what they want to do, or what we want to do. Because actually, I feel like I'm a child of the war on drugs, having grown up in East New York. But
you are.
I am, real talk. It is bad, the PTSD, as far as I'm concerned. But what we need to know is that there's going to be all of those community-based organizations, some that have been without funding for years. The community organization that our mother founded, George Dawson Community Services Center. Those are the type of organizations that were really embedded in community service, and it is a for us, by us kind of mentality, but never having enough funding. Those are the businesses, in my opinion, that deserve some reinvestment. Individuals need to figure out how they're supposed to get from bail to bud if you want to be in the industry. You may have gotten various charges. How do you get them removed, and how do you get in?
And not a complicated way.
Yes.
Some of the decriminalization language on how to even get your record expunged is like, for real.
In New York, I feel like it needs to be like how it was in Washington, just one press of a button. Right. But we already know that's not going to be like that. Just because if you've ever been to the Social Security office, or if you've ever been to unemployment, or if you've been to DMV, you already know. No, that's not New York State. Now, maybe some counties, maybe Western New York, okay? I'll give a shout out to Rochester and Buffalo because most things seem to run smooth there. But New York City, whatever Brooklyn office would be doing this, nah, it would be crazy. I do think it's unfair for people to have to deal with red tape, bureaucracy, or any type of fees related to being arrested when something was wrongly illegal.
I definitely agree. Well, more to come. Ultimately, I don't believe it will be passed. I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
The majority leader has essentially said that she feels very strongly about the work she's doing this year, that they will get to where they need to get to. And she's starting off the year very strong on it. And since they've already had discussions since last year, he already knows the position. There has been more support coming out of the Senate, and so I'm excited about that. But I do think that you're right. It's something about the fact that he's still really struggling with understanding why setting aside a certain percentage of the revenue, whatever that is, it could be $10. If it's $10, then this percentage need to be going to this group or this neighborhood. And I know that it's difficult for people to wrap their minds around that, but imagine being the group that had to go to jail all these years because of something that was illegal, right?
For no reason.
For no reason, other than profits for other big businesses and a prison, an industrial prison complex, right? So I don't know. I think I believe in fairness, and I think the fair thing is to ensure that the state that has done the most harm, because they have arrested the most people than anyone else in the country, look very hard at the data that is very clear from Drug Policy Alliance over the last 40 years. A number of organizations, Harlem Business Alliance has outlined the various zones of communities that have been impacted. I believe there are 13 in total. It doesn't make sense not to address it. And I'm sorry, the ambiguity tells me that doesn't really intend to address it. When you write law like this, it's going to take a minute for us to fix it if we go forward. I'd rather not pass adult use and force the hand of the administration to just start working on that medical program.
Well, it feels a lot like New Jersey. New Jersey's been legalizing since 2017 at this point. So he's 2 years behind that. So there's my expectations are like zero. I believe in the people of the state and the city that wants it to happen, but anything higher than that.
Well, at any time, the MRTA, which is currently already again, a bill that is sponsored, and if it doesn't work out with the governor's bill, there is that one. And so
I think that one needs to be passed.
We need to just be very clear that in order for that to happen, we have to have bodies in the seats. And so the upcoming lobby day is actually on February 12th. We're going to be up in Albany, and the Start Smart Coalition is really about trying to find the best solutions to making regulation of marijuana and hemp in New York work for all parties involved. In addition to February 12th lobby day, we also have the Black and Hispanic and Asian New York State caucus up in Albany. So stay tuned for more information about what we'll be doing there, because I'm going all over the world trying to celebrate my birthday, all over the world trying to share the success in the cannabis industry. And of course, so the book tour will be taking a little bit of a turn up to Albany as well. I need to educate these legislators.
Okay, and get some chicken wings for me, because the higher you go upstate, the better the food gets.
Yo, you are hilarious. Oh my goodness. But you're right, actually. The buffalo wings, the food in Albany is really good too. I've been to a couple of great restaurants, but I wish we can get this right in New York. We've got to lobby. We've got to ask for the right things. At the same time, while we're lobbying for social justice, I just want to also put a call to action for health justice. The New York medical cannabis community is really calling for patient testimonials. And, they've already started sharing that in the lobby day, but I'm going to put the link in the comments for people to share your testimonial, whether you are a legal patient or not. It is something that you are taking for any ailment. It's important for legislators to know. I don't believe that a lot of them understand really the medical benefits. And I think that's why I always roll with doctors. So when I'm going up to Albany, I got a PhD, I got a PharmD, I got an MD with me, and then little old me with the molecular biology degree. We're hoping our science trifecta plus the WeedHead will, convince people that this actually has some real benefits. But yeah, I definitely think that we've got a long way to go, and it's important for us to start sharing, at least anecdotally, what's the good benefits about cannabis.
That's awesome. Well, turn up. Your birthday, your season is just giving you all the good.
I mean, we just getting started. We got so much going on. Okay, so earlier last week, I also announced that I'm going to be at South by Southwest, y'all.
Okay.
Hey, yes. We are sharing cannabis, success in cannabis out in Texas. And so I'm excited to be gearing up because, one, it is going to be the largest offering of cannabis business content that the festival has ever offered. Oh, wow. It is gangbuster large, hella large. Oh, and wow. I am a featured mentor, so people got to make it up. Nice little appointment for my session. They get a quick little 15-minute mentor session, and I love that.
Okay,
I love that.
You really give them some jewels and be actionable items when you leave.
3 things at least. I like to get you started, but the first thing almost always is that you need to be an advocate, and that's a number one thing, and it's going to be so important. If you're trying to get into the New York market, I don't care how much money you have. You're going to need people who are at the Capitol. They're going to have an agenda. And my hope is that your agenda aligns with what is in the best interest of consumers and patients, because ultimately that's going to be what makes the market really hot.
Wow. Well, this has been a bomb episode. Oh my goodness. And we got into a lot of dirt and tea.
Of course.
And so, happy birthday.
Hey, happy birthday to me. Yes. Oh, okay. So do I get to do more birthday announcements? I got a few more minutes. I got a few more minutes. Okay, so in addition, I talked about South by Southwest. Mm-hmm. I'm going to save a little bit of announcements for our next episode because, February continues. Happy Black History Month. Yes. We've got a participation with, or a little bit collaboration with CanInclusive on their Black First. Oh, awesome. I'm excited because I am the first Black author of a published cannabis book. And so they are excited to be partnering with them. What else is happening? Oh, I did also get featured in a new magazine called Sweet Jane. This is an awesome magazine. It's basically a magazine that is an empowering women in cannabis. And I am on page 727 as a visionary. That's exciting. Yes, so it's like all the birthday gifts. So this will be on stands until March 10th. And yes, the last but not least, I am offering for a limited time only, for February only, my class coming up, and you're only gonna have a little bit of time to register. But instead of it being $100, I'm taking $25 off, 25% off for that birthday special. Check you out. So you're gonna get it for $75. It includes a free print book of how to succeed in the cannabis industry, plus 3 weeks of 3 consecutive classes that are pretty critical. You walk away, even after the first class, you'll feel like you know so much more. But by the third, you definitely can jump in.
That's super exciting. Well, you got them all together. Your birthday is coming through. Turn up, turn up, turn up. Love the energy. This has been a great show. Make sure you follow at WeedHead.com to really figure out where she's going, and all social media. Yes. And check She Blaze out. Facebook Live Saturday mornings at 11 Eastern Standard Time. And you can listen to us anytime on SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and Apple iTunes.
Yes. So we are all over.
Yes, we are worldwide.
The next couple of episodes, though, just let y'all know, we're going to be in multiple places, different places. So we'll say goodbye to our little set for a little bit.
Y'all saw my tears. Have a great week.